building penalties on the property owned by NYC REO LLC at 26 Cleveland Street, to sell said property to a responsible owner to facilitate the process of returning the property to productive use. Motion to consider. John Bennett, second. Gary Thomas, discussion. Bill Carpenter, or excuse me, Bill Knickerbocker. How are you?
I'm here to fill in any blanks that may have occurred last time for you.
Can you please bring me up to speed?
This is a vacant building that is at 26 Cleveland Street on the east end. It's been vacant almost 10 years now. It's fallen through years of vacancy. It's been empty. So we've dealt with it regularly. We look at them quarterly. It's been picked up by a new firm, and they've had it a couple of years. And they've told us as recently as today that this will be sold within 60 days. So that's a good thing, right? I think what this does is helps carry on the intent of the vacant building ordinance. The fees, that I think is another matter. That does help in urging someone along. Sometimes the banks, I don't know, for us, just processing these things sometimes is just generic. This one, to have someone prompt or request because of an action, like a sale, I'm not so sure if what would happen if these folks weren't able to sell this property. I don't have that kind of information, but it is encouraging for us because we like to see them go off the list instead of come on the list.
Will the property be up to code?
Not immediately. Yes, eventually, yes.
Eventually.
So there'll be permits, that kind of thing, sure. And that's how we would track those kinds of concerns as we, other locations that we're referred to. So we would issue building permits. Folks would be required to follow the building code.
The $10,000 fee, Billy, what was that all cured from?
That's,
Non-registry or?
yeah, non-registry.
Nothing
That's
to
when
do
it
with-
went, when it got sold. So it went into foreclosure.
So reality, we're really not we're losing money, obviously $10,000, but time invested in what do you think we're really at is a true number?
Oh, in terms of the taxes are gonna get paid when it gets sold. Right now, the taxes are up.
But what your investment is just to say, we're gonna find you, I don't even know what it is anymore, but 500 for the first time you didn't register it, 1,000 the next time. It's just a matter of, it was just a paperwork thing, correct?
Well, here, the enforcement end of this gets a little dicey, and it really does, I think. So, in terms of the fee.
Right.
So the other, we can handle the other. The fee, I think, just, for me, it's a win.
I think that's what Troy's driving.
Right.
Yeah.
And I agree with you.
Well, currently, we don't have those $10,000 free. This is just something that's billable to them right now.
Right.
So if we waive this, they end up buying it, it goes back on the tax roll, they're gonna be paying the taxes. We come out kind of winning on that end.
So, yes, we can go back to the intent of when council originally passed the vacant building fee. And the intention was to prompt property owners, instead of sitting on a property, leaving it vacant, watching it deteriorate the neighborhood, prompting property owners saying, hey, do something. And for all intents and purposes, this is a property like many others that, okay, property owners looking to move and do something productive, good for the property, great for the neighbors as well. So we can talk about the $10,000, but that was kind of the stick, and the real intent here, let's make properties productive, and this is what has happened.
Well, we force them to do it.
Yes.
Right.
Pretty much, I mean, because they can't obviously pay that, so now we force them to sell it.
They
Yeah.
can't sell it unless we waive it, so.
Right.
They're
But
willing
we're
to
not
pay the
out
fees,
$10,000 either.
I'm not sure I understand why the cost is passed along to the buyer instead of coming out of the price that they pay.
It
with
could
the
be, but
seller.
if you don't have the contract read that way, when the
Right.
realtors or whatever do it, just,
I-
you sell me your house and you owe taxes, and I'm responsible for them if I didn't, wasn't aware of that
Yeah, but
upfront.
this is different from
Yeah.
taxes.
Well, I agree with you, but it's just, whether they're lien or something, it's still gonna
Right.
come back to the buyer if you.
And I can
Whoever
see that,
buys this is gonna have to have a CO before it can be occupied, so the CO is gonna take care of any code problems, and I'm sure.
That's a
Bill will
good point.
attest to that.
It's gonna cost them some money to fix it up.
it will. So maybe we've used too big a stick for our fines.
No, I don't think we use
No.
big enough one, it takes too long to get where we gotta get. No, I'm serious, it's taking way too long.
Some of those have brought those ugly bulk of what you see out there along quicker than they would have.
But we're gonna have to, there are some fines that will accrue just because of over 10 years, you guys have stopped by, you've had to do inspections. I'm sure in some cases, grass had to be mowed by the city. There are billable hours.
That's been
Those-
billed to the
those
taxes,
come on
the
a
taxes will be
closing.
paid.
Yeah,
So those
those-
nuisance complaints, that nuisance work, the grass, the snow shoveling, that comes back on a closing, so it would
Okay.
come up in a surge,
That shows up on a levy then.
yes.
Okay.
So our code department has been very active, they are extremely busy, and it is being productive. These are the kind of things that we have identified as being blights on neighborhoods that need to be corrected, and it's, for all intents and purposes, going the way it should. However, if the cost is too onerous for somebody to purchase, then we're gonna be stuck. So, making the decision about when to waive the fees is up to council, but a judicious decision is asked.
We don't need any more red placards on any more houses, we got enough. We gotta start taking them off somehow,
Well, they're coming,
and they're coming, and this is,
it's going the right way.
that's all.
All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you, everyone. Agenda item number 10,
Can I just
Consider-
make a comment about this, you're gonna be seeing very shortly a change in that. The United States Supreme Court made a ruling relative to how we fine things. It has to be more related to the actual activities and not necessarily how we do it, which is a graduated, not arbitrary, but it's graduated, not based upon services rendered. And we have to go to a services rendered fine system. So Mac and I will be working over the next, probably towards summertime, to get that to the right place. So these kind of things will be changing, and we still want to present it as an effort to make the house become productive, but we have to, it may not be with the fine system, we may have to try to find something else to do that with. But like I said, Mac, Bill, and I will be working on that as diligently as we can. It's just not gonna happen for another couple of months until we sort out what the Supreme Court said. So that's kind of an update, and that will be coming shortly.
Thank you.
thank you, Rick. Number 10, resolution to encumber $220,000 from the general fund contingency account for the following purposes and amounts: for snow and ice removal from fall of 18, winter of 19, $60,000. Police department personnel, contract settlement, $50,000. Retirement settlements for employees, $110,000. And the remaining unencumbered balance in the contingencies would then be $46,612. That would be the remaining balance. Motion to consider, Bill Carpenter, second, Gary Thomas, discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Agenda item number 11, resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a one-year extension of the contract with Manassas Auctions for the upcoming 2019 tax sale auction. Date is to be determined. Motion to consider. John Bennett, second, Troy Beckwith, discussion. So a copy of the contract was included in the packet.
We send that out for bids or whatever, or is it?
It went out to bid, and then this would be an extension of the contract that went out to bid. And point of information, we have reached out to the county to see if they are looking to do the same. I believe they actually use the same company. So if and when we hear back, we'll let you know. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Number 12, resolution amending the City of Cortland electrical code to update and comport with the New York State Electric Code guidelines. Motion to consider. Katie Silliman, second. Cat McCarthy, discussion. Any questions for the Deputy Chief Engineer?
This is
Nick or Bob?
housekeeping. It was 1971, so it's time to bring it.
Just out of
These-
curiosity.
Believe it or not, the electric code, as the state updates their code, it's automatic, it happens. But we wanted to make sure that it was in 122 because the 1203 to the 100 chapter refers to 122. So we want to make sure that the date at least,
And the added language that takes care of new additions.
right, every 3 years. So we're on a 3-year code cycle.
So Mr. Fisk mentioned that some states are on a they have the 2017 edition. We can only update as far as New York State in general is updated.
We will eventually. Do you know if New York State is doing that, Bill?
I don't know, since it was just last summer that they adopted 2017. You know, we don't move too fast around here. In June, the 2020 code will be formally adopted.
That's true. So,
By all means, let's adopt the 2014 one.
that's the recognized code today, so.
Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Thank you, Bill. Number 13, consideration of a resolution to authorize the Director of Administration and Finance to charge and collect from the County of Cortland a fee equal to 1.5% of the gross amount of property taxes collected for the county district during the calendar year ending December 31st, 2019. Motion to consider. John Bennett, second. Gary Thomas, discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Agenda item number 14, resolution to authorize the Director of Administration and Finance to charge from the City of Cortland Enlarged School District a fee in the amount equal to 1.5% of the gross amount of property taxes collected for the school district during the calendar year ending December 31st, 2019. Motion to consider. Bill Carpenter, second. Katie Silliman, discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Number 15, resolution to encumber the following amounts from the 2018 general fund and water budgets to the 2019 general fund and water budgets. From the police department under operational equipment, $7,000, uniform and safety, $5,000, training, $6,000. For the youth bureau under operating equipment, $23,480, and the fire department hazmat operations, $8,419.48. And in the water department, deer fund donations, $903.71. Motion to consider. Bill Carpenter, second. Cat McCarthy, discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. So we're down to number 16, DRI update. Keep this as a placeholder. We are moving and about a little quicker than the pace of electrical codes, I think, in terms of our interactions with the state. And actually, we're having some very productive discussions about one, contract between the city and the state, Department of State, to formalize the agreement regarding the downtown revitalization initiative and the monies that will go through the city regarding improvements in the community. We are also, Matt Cook, kudos to Mac. He's been spending a lot of time revising, refining, and continuing to put together the RFP for the Main Street portion of the DRI, which is over $5 million of the total cost. And this is a lot of work. If you're not sure, there's underground, there's streetscaping, there's other work to be done the street, the curbs, the sidewalks, and we are putting forth an RFP with the intention of hopefully being able to have one firm help us with all of the aspects that we want to have addressed with our main street. So we are continuing to work on the paperwork on that end. We should have more progress coming up. Questions about the DRI? Some of the private projects, we'll see if we can't get an update at some point in the future, but things are moving along with some of the private projects as well. John?
Oh, with council's approval, I would like to add an agenda item, and that would be a resolution to appoint Wendy Horner, I believe, as a registrar in the clerk's office. So with council's permission, if we could add that.
So the resolution, Wendy Horner is a new employee in the clerk's office with the retirement of Joyce Naj. And the resolution is to appoint Wendy Horner as a registrar. We have a motion to consider. Bill Carpenter, second. Troy Beckwith, discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And I would also say, because Joyce is leaving April 29th. So if anybody has a chance on council to go in and thank Joyce and wish her the best of luck before she leaves.
I will be sending you all an invite by email on a day that we will celebrate for her.
Nice.
Thank you.
So you can all come in.
Very good.
Any further business to come before the council? Oh, excuse me. Jeez. Sorry, hang on 1 second, Troy. I missed number 17, task force update. Kat?
So the group met this last week and has another meeting set up this coming week to continue moving things forward.
And when would that be next week?
It'll be Thursday. Thursday at 6 o'clock. This Thursday, 6 o'clock in this room. It's getting exciting. Come on in and listen if you want. They're getting closer, John.
Yeah, I've had numerous people reach out to me.
That's cryptic, but I think it's a good thing, and they're getting closer.
Troy?
As I mentioned, or we all agreed on last month, or last meeting, that Mac was gonna look into the thing on the insurance for the elder people. We can, talk about eliminating or possibly eliminating that, like some answers on that, or at least an update.
I'll give you an update.
We've got an issue out to our legal counsel.
Not me, but theirs.
Is a sitting council person, a civil servant, whose benefits and compensation cannot be changed regardless of term. That's the issue. So, the second issue is that you cannot change the compensation of a sitting council person while they're in term.
Right.
But if if that person then is reelected, is he or she a civil servant for purposes of New York law whose compensation cannot be changed?
Okay, I
Which is what we
appreciate
said.
that you're looking into that, but I'm curious about newly elected people
That's up to
going
council.
forward.
That's what we talked about, but they're already pre-existing, and there was a condition that they had to still remain in, which is fine.
Yeah. Yeah, we're talking about moving forward, new councilman, never been council.
Then you need to you can do that, council can do that at their discretion with a resolution.
Okay,
I'd like to have the resolution drawn up,
okay.
or recommend to have the resolution drawn up.
Would you draw that up for us?
If the mayor so instructs.
The request from council, make sure I'm clear, is that council members would not be eligible for health insurance through the city.
Correct. Anybody pre-existing, the remainder of their term, or if they get re-elected, is their term, really, it's a whole different term, so it would drop or continue, because it's
That's
just,
what he's
That's
looking
the,
into.
right, okay.
if they
So
are
we can still put that clause in there until,
Mhm.
we'll draft you up a resolution, put it on next, the 16th agenda.
thank you. And I got one last thing, that I think it's gone long enough, and I think we all deserve some answers here. What's going on with the downtown partnership? I think it needs to be addressed. I think it needs to be brought to our attention. There's so much rumor on the streets, and I've had a lot of phone calls. We can't hide it. We have a part in the downtown partnership.
We do.
And I know they're supposedly having an inside audit, which is fine, but I think we ought to demand an audit from us. So it needs to be done fast. It's been way too much time gone on. They got a project that's not finished. I'm not pointing fingers, we just need answers. And it needs to be done now.
Well, the partnership is its own nonprofit entity, and we have partnered with the partnership on a number of different things. So I've had direct contact with several members of the board, most notably Evan Geibel, who's the president, and right now they do not have any employees. So the impression that I am under is that the board has taken the time, and they are reviewing their mission, their guidelines, and doing a thorough review of everything start to finish. And yes, I'm aware as well that there's been some statements and some conjecture, but at this point, I've offered, from my perspective, the assistance in terms of the city with the partnership, but there is a very capable and talented board of volunteers there, just like any nonprofit. And the board is currently doing what they need to do to make sure that the partnership is doing what it needs to move forward in a healthy manner.
But there's some other issues. I mean, parking, what's gonna happen with that if it, they dissolve, or we just, what about some of the grant money that was, the city got, I believe, or, help getting the money? Is there any accountability on that? I just really think that we.
I think what Troy's trying to say is that you have, the partnership is doing an audit at this time,
Correct.
having themselves do an
But
audit.
that's what I'm told.
Okay, so you would like a separate audit, based on the money we gave to the partnership.
Yeah, accountability of what the city dished out. Where it's gone, where it was spent. If it's still there, it hasn't been.
When you say the monies that the city gave, and I've been sitting in on partnership meetings to be the eyes and ears of the city.
Thank you.
I am not contributing anything to their meetings. I listen. So anytime any of you, I've talked to Bill a little bit about this, anytime anybody on the council wants to know anything, call me, ask me. This council, number one, needs to remember that we've been giving them $20,000 a year with no restrictions on it. So,
I thought it was 30.
no, it's $20,000 a year with no restrictions on it.
Okay.
So, there isn't anything there to audit. They are currently, through last year, caught up in parking money. Okay, so the only parking money that would be outstanding would be for this first quarter that just ended.
But in the meantime, we don't know about the events that they used to sponsor. And so I'm wondering, what are we getting for the 20,000 that we've committed for this next year? So it'd be nice, personally, I don't feel the need to re-audit them. Let's let them do their
Well,
audit and
again,
then.
the $20,000 for this year came with no strings.
And then when Evan comes, well, we may not wanna reinvest in them. We wanna know what's
That would
happening
be-
with the money. So if Evan could come in and talk to us.
Yeah.
Also, it's been an eyesore for a long time. The interior was looking really nice when I saw it, but the
That was your building, it's
exterior,
been shut down by now. They have a red sign on the front.
but the exterior is an eyesore. Well, I know that they've rented the, apartment on top. That's currently rented.
They are working on getting the construction going again, is all I can tell you for that. As far as grant money, really, the grants that they received through, the Central New York, or the Upstate Regional Initiative and any DRI money did not come from the city. That was all grants that their director wrote.
So is that true to the statement, then, what you're saying, the $20,000 we gave, we just gave it to them and they can have a party?
Well, the 20,000 was with the intention of doing a lot of different things. So there's been, in addition to the cleanup, the events such as Chillabration, Taste of Downtown, facilitating other events. there's been a lot of different responsibilities for the partnership. So these are decisions that past councils have made. So I don't think it's necessarily fair to say we're giving them money for a party.
Well,
The partnership has been very.
John's saying there's no accountability, they don't have to account for what we gave them the money for, and what I'm
Sure.
sensing from you is.
The
you know,
partnership is responsible to the board, and I'll remind you that the board is a group of volunteers. So right now, there's no paid staff. You have a group of volunteers who are all
Yeah, I understand that.
involved in the community. They all have their regular jobs, and they are putting time and effort. And I am respecting their time, their expertise, and I would ask council to do the same. Give these people the opportunity to do their review of their organization. And if we've got specific questions, if it's in regards to the city, I am more than happy to look through whatever it is we need regarding the financials between the city and the partnership. I'm confident that we can answer any questions that you have in terms of what the city has done with the partnership.
Mr. Mayor.
And then as going forward, when Evan and the board is ready, yes, we can ask them to come in, but they need some more time.
After having run a not-for-profit corporation in Cortland for 37 years, I can tell you right now that it's mandated, you have to have a yearly audit. It's the way it is. So, there has to be an audit for every penny that comes in, where did it go out? And I think that if we could get our hands on one of those, I think that would probably answer a lot of the questions you have, Troy.
Okay, so we'll see if we can follow up in terms of some of the,
Just people want some answers and nothing's coming out.
Right.
I mean, it's just, I don't think you should take this one personally, I just.
Absolutely.
well, I'll ask council after tonight's meeting, when you have the opportunity, send me whatever questions, and the more specific, the better. Because there's a lot of ground, when you're talking about the building, that's different than the operations of the organization, and that's different than the parking. In terms of the parking, I can tell you that we are continuing our agreement with the partnership. The board has undertaken the responsibility of being able to sell the permits. Currently, that's being done from the Cortland standard. Full disclosure, Rick Van Donsel and I have had a conversation, and the question of, is there potential for a view of a lack of impartiality because the Cortland standard has to report on city business? I've had that conversation with Evan. He's taken that back, and he's going to talk about that. One of the changes that we are planning to make, and making very shortly, is in the past, money was remitted to the partnership, and then the partnership would pay the city. We're going to ask that all checks are written out directly to the city, and hopefully getting away from cash payments. So that is an added layer in terms of protection. But in terms of the parking monies, remember, permits are issued. You know how many permits there are, they're tracked. So it's really easy to see how much money came in, and then making sure that everything matches up.
We can foil any of their information.
And I understand that there's been some, there's been some discussions, and there's been some, but they're to the point where with the volunteer board, they are putting in the time and effort, and I'm confident that when they've had the opportunity to get through, they will be able to come forward and answer any and all questions. And at this point, if there are specific questions about the city's involvement, we are more than happy to answer any questions, because the partnership and the city have been working together, and that's one of the reasons why there's been a lot of good things happening downtown. And the DRI was part of that, is part of that, because the partnership was very involved in the application process. And there's several other major projects that have come about from that. So some of the specific questions I can't answer tonight, but if there's a question in terms of where some things were going, what was happening, we can sit down and address any question.
Sounds good.
Absolutely.
Any further business to come before the council this evening? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Gary Thomas, second Cat McCarthy, all in favor, say aye. Opposed? We are.